Hello everybody. So in this video, I'm going to get into sunk cost fallacy, which I found to be a very fascinating fallacy, especially when you look for it in your own life. And well, first let's get into what is sunk cost or what is the sunk cost fallacy. This is an incorrect way of thinking or logically speaking of looking at things where basically what you're doing is you keep on doing or working towards a goal, even though maybe that goal isn't going to get you the results you wanted anymore. So we're talking about the process, right? Like there needs to be adjustments made, and you're not going to make those adjustments. You're going to continue, you're going to persist. Um, but now it's going to cost you, right? It's no longer beneficial. And your reasoning for this, which is the fallacy, is that since you have already invested time, resources, money in this, you must finish, right? So it's doing something even though it's not what you want to do anymore, and it's typically due to past investments, right? Because you've already invested money, time, resources, and but there is no future benefit, right? So we start to see this distinction between what you have done in the past and what you will do or receive in the future, right? Now, some concrete examples of this can be typically like staying at your job even though you don't like it anymore, right? Even though you don't want to be there anymore, but you think to yourself, well, I've already invested years in this company, right? It's what I know. So you're using the logic of the past, right? Since I've already been here for so long, right? It's what I know. I should just continue to stay here even though I'm miserable now, right? Maybe I was happy once in the past, but now I'm no longer happy. Excuse me. Another example is finishing a book. Mm, and we can kind of see this. I think this is the most clear example, or the clearest example. Finishing a book, movie, or food, even though you don't like it anymore, right? So let's say you go to a restaurant, you pay for your meal, right? And you're eating the meal, and you're like, oh, I don't really like this. But now I feel that I must finish it because I already paid for it. That logic is sunk cost. Or I paid for my ticket to go watch this movie. I'm watching the movie, and halfway through it, I'm just like, this is boring. I don't like it. But since you already paid for your ticket, you figure you might as well stay and watch it till the end, right? Or you buy a book, halfway through the book, you're like, I don't like this book. It's not for me. But you think to yourself, well, I already paid for it, so I might as well finish it, right? So that those are all examples of sunk cost fallacy. Or continuing a project, whether at work, at school, wherever, a personal project, just because you have already invested money, time, and resources in it. This example is very clear with like governments and like companies where they start a project and they think to themselves, we have to finish it even though it's not going to get us. I think an example this video gave was like the Concorde, with France and with England. They were building like a plane, the Concorde, even though it wasn't going to get them any future benefits since they had already invested time and money and resources in it. Their logic was like, we might as well just finish it, right? For the sake of finishing, because we've already invested so much in it, we might as well just finish it, right? So the tip here that ChatGPT gives is you need to reevaluate the situation. And I think this constant reevaluation and updating needs to be happening through every step of the process, right? That which you're undertaking or which you're doing. Which I agree. Okay, sometimes you need to change things, but I'm just gonna play the devil's advocate here and say, what of persistence? What of determination? What of perseverance, right? What of those things? It's like you go to the gym and you say, I'm going to work out for 6 months straight, right? And maybe you're 2 or 3 months in, and it's like, I don't really want to do this anymore, but I'm going to keep doing it because I already paid my membership card, which was expensive and which I did in the beginning to make myself go to the gym, right? But now is that sunk cost fallacy, or is that just being lazy, right? Are you gonna quit the gym because you really don't want to go anymore, right? Like, where's your determination then? Where is your hard work? So it's like, how do I fit this notion of like persistence, right? Let's just use persistence for all of those attributes of like determination, consistency, perseverance, right? Like persistence, how are you going to be persistent despite the obstacles and the difficulties which you view yourself in or which you feel? How are you going to evaluate when something is merely because you don't want to do it anymore? And when are you going to know that you have to persist and get it done even though you don't want to do it anymore, right? When are you going to know the difference between like quitting something because it's no longer beneficial even though you've put the work in the beginning, and when must you really make adjustments and changes, right? um, so yeah, how do you balance sunk cost with the notion of persistence? Now, ChatGPT gives a solution for this. Well, a couple of solutions like reflecting, thinking about it, reevaluating, reorganizing your priorities and your structures, your mental structures, right? But I think one very practical thing that ChatGPT says is you need to evaluate the relationship between past investments and future benefits, right? So if you've invested a lot, right, like not selling a stock that has lost money because you feel that once you sell it, you're actually going to lose, right? Um, you need to evaluate that versus the future benefit, right? Which is this notion that I spoke about earlier in the video. Like, I've already invested in it. Yes, I already paid my ticket. I already bought the book. I already bought the meal. But what's the benefit for the future, right? Like, for example, going to the gym is going to be an investment, but it's also going to be something that's going to give you benefit for the future, right? I don't think you could say, well, it's a bad idea for me to be health and fit and strong, right? Probably not. So in that case, you are going to have to persevere and persist, right? Even though you don't want to anymore, right? Even though the initial motivation is now gone, right? So yeah, where does personal desire and motivation also fit into this? Because let's be honest, if you start an activity which you're really motivated to do, motivation isn't going to get you to the end, right? Motivation gets you started, but what keeps you going is discipline, persistence, perseverance, right? And this notion of sunk cost fallacy, when I was watching a video on it and some examples, I thought to myself, well, that's all nice and dandy saying, hey, if you don't like it anymore, just quit, even though you've already invested in it. But then I thought to myself, like, wait, that's wrong. That's a fallacy, right? Because it's like, how are you going to get anything done then if you're just starting things but not finishing them? Because halfway through it, you're like, oh yeah, sunk cost because, you know, I don't like it anymore, because I'm not motivated anymore, because it's not my desire anymore. It's not where my heart is. And like I said, motivation will get you started, but you're not gonna be motivated at the end. You're gonna be tired, and persistence is gonna get you through it, right? So I feel like almost everything has benefits, even if you don't like it, right? I have this notion that even like whatever you're doing or undertaking or watching or reading or eating or whatever will benefit you, at least subconsciously. I'll give you this example. I was watching this interview with Waka Flocka, and this guy, like they were in like this little camp thing, and I would say the beginning, the interview was like 2 hours, and I think this guy is used to doing like 3-4 hour interviews. And at the end of the interview, they said it was like 4 o'clock. So I guess it started at like 2 in the morning, pretty late, I would say, for an interview. But anyway, they were doing the interview, and like halfway through the interview, like halfway to the end, it's just not productive. It's basically the interviewer just constantly asking, and I admire the interviewer's persistence, right? I thought that was admirable, like, constantly asking Waka Flocka Flame all of these questions, and Waka Flocka Flame just being like, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you. Like, he would literally say that, I'm not gonna tell you, go investigate it, go look at it for yourself, and just giving like all these short answers, like being very, I guess, and I understand why. I understood why at the end of the video. because Waka Flocka was like, "It's 4 in the morning, dude. Like, I'm tired. I'm gonna go." Waka Flocka was the one that actually said, like, "I gotta go," you know, because I guess his phone rang. And me as a spectator, as a viewer, right, subscribe to this channel, I was kind of like, I don't want to watch this anymore, right? This is a sunk cost because I'm no longer getting anything out of it. I'm just watching this interviewer, drill Waka Flocka with questions, which I admired and respected. But this is not getting me anything. This is not contributing anything to me, right? That's what I thought at the moment, but I persisted and I kept watching it. Why? I don't know, because again, I have this notion, and I think we all do, and it's up to us to explore what are our sunk costs, right, in our lives. We can do this with like reflection. What's something that you keep doing even though you're not getting anything out of it anymore? What is something that you keep doing just because you started it, right? This could be with projects, with relationships, with people, with habits that you do in your life, like whatever. Um, and for me, it was like I started this video and I finish all my videos, right? Even if they're like 2, 3 hours long, I'm gonna watch it all. I watch it like on different days, but I'm gonna finish it, even though it's no longer giving me anything, right? That's what I thought. But now I think about this video, I'm using it as an example. And for me, it's an example of persistence because this guy was persistently asking, right? Which I respect. And yeah, it's just like, and like I can use it now as an example of, like a person that is trying to keep the interview going and another person that's just being very like short with his answers, right? Like, you investigate it, like, yeah, no, whatever, like, I don't care. And then at the end, just being like, you know what, I'm tired, I want to go. But then I think, and it helps you subconsciously, I think, because it's an example or a model of, of a particular situation, which you can use as an example for other things, right? But I also think there are some things that you do have to quit, right? Which I did just yesterday. I was reading this book on logical mathematics or something like that, and it's using all of these weird symbols, all of these weird notions, right? And when I read a really weird book or a very technical book, because I think this is very technical, you have to know about those things in order to understand like the symbols and the math in it. um, you know I was like reading it, and when I read those type of books, I say to myself, I'm not going to understand everything. I'm probably not even going to understand like most of it, but the little that I do understand is going to be worth it, right? And that's why I persisted, and I got to like page, I think it's like a 500-page book. I got to like page 40 or 50, right? But just yesterday, I decided, you know what? Like, I'm really not getting anything at all from this book, and I can persist because it may help me subconsciously in some way. But I'm just not. I'm just gonna quit. And I think it's that notion of quitting. Nobody wants to be a quitter. Nobody wants to give up. I think it's like a pride thing, and pride many times, more often than not, is irrational, right? I think we know that it's an emotion, pride. So you don't want to quit it, right? You want to see it to its end, but at the same time, you're kind of like, yeah, but I'm just wasting my time because this isn't, and I can say that like it's kind of like a judgment call because you don't know if like in the next 100 or 200 pages something is going to be revealed to you that's going to be groundbreaking, right? You don't know. So I'm risking that. I am risking that. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't want to keep doing this. So I'm just going to quit reading this book, right? Um, and it does make you think. Like just now, I'm thinking, like, well, what about the time that I've already spent reading it? And I can say, well, the time that I've already spent reading it, I've learned stuff from it, right? But it's also taught me that it's not really going to teach me more than a couple little things here and there, right? So I feel like I've already used it. So again, you have to think about the past investment and the future, um, and the future benefit, while also taking into consideration this element of persistence and perseverance and not giving up, right? and achieving and completing something. But it's kind of like that thing where you like complete something, but you got nothing to show for it, right? It's like I finished this book, yes, excellent, but what do you got to show for it? Well, I didn't learn anything, or I learned like one, two things from it. When typically from a book you learn like a ton of things, right? Um, so yeah, I think it's about that. It's worth considering. So let me know what you know about. Let me know what you know. Let me know what you think about and what you know about these notions. Sunk cost, pretty interesting idea, and related with persistence. I thought I'd make a video talking about it. So that's all I got for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.